The world 3.8 million years ago was wild, dangerous, and untouched by civilization. Thick forests stretched across endless lands, giant insects crawled beneath, wet leaves, and powerful predators ruled the earth. In the middle of this harsh world lived a small group of early humans near muddy, rivers surrounded by dark swamps. They had no houses, no machines, and no fires strong enough to protect them from every danger hiding in the shadows. Every sunrise, carefully because giant predators wandered silently through the jungle. The river near their camp was feared more than any other place because stories were passed from one generation to another about a giant snake that hunted near the water.
Just beneath the
tribe
surface.
called the creature the
We are
river
not
shadow.
safe here by
Nobody
the water.
had ever fought it and survived. One evening, while the sky turned orange and the wind carried strange sounds through the trees, a young hunter named Karo walked toward the river with his spear made from sharpened wooden stone. He hoped to catch fish before darkness covered the land. As he stepped through the mud, he noticed giant tracks beside the riverbank. Suddenly, the water exploded with force, and an enormous Titanoboa rose from the swamp. Like a living monster, its dark scales glistened under the fading sunlight, and its glowing eyes locked onto Karo. The snake was like a living monster. Its dark scales glistened under the fading sunlight, and its glowing eyes locked onto Karo. The snake was longer than several trees placed together, and its body moved through the water like a wave of death. Fear froze Karo for a moment, but deep inside he knew this terrifying encounter would change the fate of his tribe forever. Paragraph 2. Karo ran through the swamp as fast as his legs could carry him while the Titanoboa chased behind. In with terrifying speed, the giant serpent crushed plants, snapped branches, and dragged its massive body through the mud like a living storm. Birds exploded into the sky as the jungle shook with chaos. Karo's heart pounded like thunder inside his chest. He had seen dangerous animals before, including giant cats and massive crocodiles, but nothing compared to the horrifying size of the Titanoboa. The snake moved silently at times, disappearing beneath the dark water before suddenly appearing again closer than before.
The great snake is
Karo
almost
leaped
here.
over fallen logs and sharp rocks.
Arm yourself.
Gripping
Run!
his speed tightly, he knew he could never defeat the creature alone. Finally,
It's coming.
he reached the tribe's camp hidden
The
between tall
Titanoboa
trees and
is
burning
right
torches.
behind me.
The people immediately understood something terrible had happened when they saw fear in his eyes. The tribe leader, an older hunter, named
was
Dagon,
there,
listened
by the
carefully
river.
as Karo described the monster near the
bigger
river.
than anything
Some believed
I've
the snake
seen.
was a spirit
We
sent by
must
nature to
leave.
punish humans for hunting
It is
too,
a spirit.
close to
The
the
serpent
swamp.
spirit will
Others wanted to
consume us
abandon
all
the
if
area
we stay near
completely
the
and
swamp.
search for safer land.
We must
But
abandon
leaving
the
meant
land.
facing unknown,
We
dangers,
cannot stay
starvation,
here.
and
The
rival
blood-hide
tribes.
tribe is
During
watching.
the night, the
We
tribe
are
sat around a
starving.
weak fire while
They're
heavy
here.
rain fell
Get
from the dark
back,
sky.
quickly.
Suddenly, loud screams echoed from the edge of the camp. The
It's a
Titanoboa
serpent!
had followed
Run!
Karo's
Get to
scent
the
and
shelters!
attacked during the storm. Its huge body wrapped around a nearby tree, crushing
Run!
it like dry
Get
wood.
to the caves!
Panic spread instantly. Mothers grabbed
Attack
children
the
while
beast!
hunters threw spears
For
toward
the
the beast.
tribe!
Weapons barely scratched its thick scales. The
Retreat!
Titanoboa opened its
Quickly!
giant mouth, revealing curved teeth
the
designed to hold
children!
struggling prey. The tribe realized they were no longer
Stand
simply
strong.
surviving nature.
We
They were
fight
fighting
until the
against one
last
of the
breath.
deadliest creatures the ancient world had ever created. The attack left the tribe terrified and exhausted. By morning, broken trees, deep tracks, and blood-covered mud surrounded the camp like scars from a nightmare. Several hunters had been injured while trying to defend the tribe, and everyone understood that the Titanoboa would return again. Dagon
That
gathered
thing
the
in the
strongest
swamp
hunters
will
beneath a
not
giant
stop.
tree to discuss a plan.
We go
Early
together.
humans were weak
We
compared to
strike
giant predators,
first,
but they
or we
survived because they
die
learned
here.
to work
This trap
together and
requires
use
speed and
intelligence
teamwork.
instead of strength
We guide
alone.
the beast into the
Karo
canyon,
suggested
then the
leading
rocks
the
will do
snake
the
into
rest.
a trap near the
Only
rocky
together can we
cliffs beyond
funnel
the
the
swamp.
beast
The
through
cliffs
here.
contained narrow
The
passages where the
passage is too
Titanoboa's
narrow
massive
for
body
its
could not
bulk.
move easily.
We
Although
strike
many
when
feared
it
the
is
idea,
trapped.
What
the
if
tribe
it breaks
knew they
the stone?
had no
Faster.
other choice.
Dig deeper.
That afternoon,
The snake
the hunters
approaches.
prepared sharp
We must
wooden
be
stakes
ready
and
by
covered deep
sundown.
pits with leaves and mud. Women
Hurry!
and children collected
Light
stones
them!
from the river while others created torches using
To the
animal fat and
barricade!
dry branches.
They come!
As the sun disappeared behind dark clouds, the jungle became strangely silent. Even the insects stopped making noise, as if nature itself was waiting for the battle to begin. Karo walked toward the swamp carrying a burning torch in one hand and his spear in the other. The smell of smoke drifted through the humid air. Suddenly, the muddy water began to move. The Titanoboa emerged slowly, its enormous body sliding across the swamp while its tongue flicked through the air. Karo shouted loudly and waved the torch to attract the creature's attention. The giant serpent charged toward him with explosive speed. Karo turned and ran directly toward the cliffs while the hunters waited in hidden positions. The ground shook beneath the Titanoboa's weight as the snake entered the narrow rocky path. Hunters jumped out from both sides, throwing flaming torches and sharp spears. The beast roared angrily and struck at the humans, but its body became trapped.
Send it back to the darkness.
For the first time, the tribe saw fear in the eyes of the giant reptile. The battle at the cliffs lasted through the entire night. Rain poured from the sky while thunder echoed across the mountains, making the fight feel like war. Itself was shaken. The Titanoboa twisted violently between the rocks, smashing stones and knocking hunters to the ground with the force of it. Its tail. One hunter was thrown against the cliff wall, while another barely escaped the creature's giant jaws. Yet the tribe refused to retreat. They had spent their entire lives fighting hunger, storms, wild animals, and endless fear. Survival had made them strong in ways even the giant serpent could not. Understand.
Look at us.
Karo climbed onto a large rock above the trapped Titanoboa while holding a sharpened spear tipped with stone. Below him, the snake struggled to free itself from the narrow passage. Dagon shouted for the hunters to keep throwing fire toward the beast because the flames confused them. Frightened, smoke filled the air as burning branches landed across the serpent's dark scales. The Titanoboa let out deep growling sounds that echoed through the cliffs like the roar of a monster from another world. Karo waited carefully for the right moment. His hands trembled from fear and exhaustion, but he remembered the terrified faces of the children hiding in the camp. With all his strength, he leaped from the rock and drove the spear deep into the Titanoboa. The creature exploded with rage, crashing violently and striking the cliff walls. More hunters attacked together, stabbing with spears and throwing stones from above. After a long and brutal struggle, the giant serpent finally became still. Silence slowly returned to the cliffs except for the sound of rain falling onto the ground. The tribe stood frozen, hardly believing they had defeated the legendary monster. To the cliffs except for the sound of rain falling onto the ground. The tribe stood frozen, hardly believing they had defeated the legendary monster. For the first time in many generations, the river no longer belonged to the river shadow. It belonged to the humans who had survived together. When morning sunlight finally broke through the storm clouds, the tribe gathered beside the fallen Titanoboa in complete silence. The enormous creature looked less like an animal and more like a piece of the ancient world itself. Its dark scales reflected the golden sunlight while birds slowly returned to the trees above. The early humans understood they had witnessed something that future generations would remember as legend. Dagon placed his hand on Karo's shoulder and declared that survival did not belong to the strongest creature, but to those who could think, adapt, and stand together against fear. The tribe used parts of the Titanoboa carefully. Its thick skin became protection against cold nights, while its bones were shaped. Tools and weapons. Nothing in nature was wasted because survival depended on respecting every resource. Over the following weeks, the people rebuilt their camp near the safer cliffs instead of the dangerous swamp. Children listened with wide eyes as hunters retold the story of the great battle. Beside the fire each night, Karo became known as the hunter who challenged the river shadow and lived. But deep inside, he never forgot how close death had been during the terrifying chase through the swamp. He understood that nature was still powerful, unpredictable, and filled with dangers. Struggled every day to survive another sunrise. Yet slowly, through courage, teamwork, and intelligence, humanity continued evolving. The victory against the Titanoboa became more than just survival. It became proof that even small and fragile humans could overcome creatures far larger and stronger than themselves. Millions of years later, the story of those ancient survivors would remind humanity that courage is often born in the darkest and most dangerous moments of life.